Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. Believe it or not, but this year in September the Battlefield franchise will turn 13. So during the last 12 years I've played every Battlefield game that has been released, including all the booster packs, bonus maps, DLCs and pretty much all the modifications. In that time I have also seen DICE try a lot of different things, like with the design of the classes, where in Battlefield 1942 they had 5. In Vietnam they reduced it to 4, in Battlefield 2 it was then increased to 7, and in 2142 they decreased it to 4 again. In Bad Company 1 we then had 5 classes, and since Bad Company 2 we have 4. But DICE did not only play around with the amount of these classes, they also changed what they were supposed to do and which purpose they had. And so we have seen assaults that carried the ammo box and supports that were suddenly medics, as well as other experiments where some worked and others, well, not so much. Now in this video I want to show you a concept for a class design that might not look that different at first, but there's quite a big twist that makes it special and unique. What is also special about this video is that unlike my other design concepts like the better comros, the alternative revive mechanic or the mission log, is that this time I'm not limiting myself to a design that should have a chance to get included into Battlefield 4. What I will show you here is very different from what you know from the Frostbite engine Battlefield games, because I think that some of the design decisions that were made in these games actually led to many teamwork problems that you see the players complain about on a daily basis. So I took a look at all the class designs in the previous Battlefield games as well as gameplay issues that bother me for quite a long time now. And then I tried to come up with a design that hopefully fixes some of these issues. So one of the primary goals of this design is to increase the incentive to have different classes in your squad and to have more teamwork. I tried to accomplish that by going back to classes where each of them has a very clear role, and this means that your squad will get more powerful when you have different classes working together. But this then also means that if you are a huge fan of the Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 class designs, then you will most likely not like my design, or you only like parts of it, because what my design is trying to achieve will result in a Battlefield game that is more like the classic Battlefield games. And that means that it is not so casual friendly and more challenging to play. The design concept that I will show you in this video is in a state where you should be able to see what it is trying to achieve. This means that I kept the loadout options quite simple and that it will not answer all your questions. Because to make this class design work in a game you have to create additional game mechanics and systems to properly support it. So please do not try to imagine Battlefield 4 using this class design and then point out all the required menu screens and game mechanics that do not exist in this game. This design is meant as an inspiration for a future Battlefield title. So let's begin with the basic classes and keep in mind that there's a twist coming at the end. The first class is the Assault. His job is to engage the enemy at medium distance with his assault rifle. He can also carry a pistol as well as a knife, which all classes have access to. If he has to remove cover or create a hole in the wall to flank the enemy, then he can use the underbarrel grenade launcher for that. If he has to conceal his movement, then he can change from explosive rounds to smoke grenades. Then there are the grenades, which are the same for all classes, so I will only mention them once here while talking about the Assault. So you can choose to take a frag grenade, smoke, tear gas or flares with you. The idea behind the flares is that this game would have real night maps, and the flares would help to get some light into the dark areas. The tear gas is something that we've seen in the Special Forces add-on for Battlefield 2, and it worked very well there when you used it to attack a control point. But to engage the enemy is not the only job of the Assault. He is also responsible for creating new routes for his squad, and he can do that with the underbarrel grenade launcher. But he can also do that with his grappling hook or the zipline. You can choose which one of these you like best or works best for the map you play on. Also, as I've mentioned night maps and tear gas before, we need some gadgets for these things. So you can choose to either take night vision goggles or a gas mask with you. These are also available for all classes. The next class is the Medic. His primary job is to keep his teammates alive, and for that he has a medic bag and a defibrillator, but he can also defend himself very well with his carbine. The reason why I separated the Assault from the Medic is that the Assault Medic we have in Battlefield 4 is too strong and versatile. Also, the player can choose to either take the medic back with him or not, and this means that if you see an assault player, then you don't know if that guy is actually able to heal you, unless you look for those small in-game icons that reveal it. Another issue is that in Battlefield 4 the assault players do forget about their role as medic, because they are too busy killing people with their offensive power. So I believe that it is better to separate the medic from the assault and have each of these classes focus on their specific role. Next up is the support. This guy is pretty straightforward as I didn't change much. As primary he has a light machine gun. To resupply his teammates he carries an ammo box, and as a second gadget he has a mortar, which can fire explosives, smoke or flares. And the idea behind the flares are again the night maps. So if you want to get some light into a dark area of the map, then you can fire a couple of flares in that direction and support your team. Or you can use the mortar to create a smoke screen, so that your team can approach the objective safely. Then we have the engineer. As primary weapon he can choose to either carry a submachine gun or a shotgun, because his main job is to repair his teammates' vehicles, commander assets, as well as bridges with his repair tool. He will rely on his teammates to protect him from players who are outside the effective range of his primary weapon. It is also his job to destroy the enemy vehicles, commander assets, as well as tactical objects like bridges. To do that he can use C4, anti-tank mines, lock-on anti-air missiles like the Stinger, guided missile launchers like the SRAW, or dump fire launchers like the RPG. So in my concept, the engineer is the guy responsible for repairs and destruction, which allows him to inflict a lot of damage. The downside is that his primary weapons are only good to defend himself at close range, and that should help to not see just engineers run around on the large conquest maps. And the last of the basic classes is the sniper. His job is to engage the enemy at long distances with his sniper rifle, but if he wants to get a little bit more up close and personal, then he can also use a designated marksman rifle. To support his team, he can choose to either take the MAV with him or the personal laser designator. The second gadget is about his security. This means that once he found a good location from where he can support his team, he can use a claymore to secure it. Or alternatively you can use a ghillie suit, which will make you almost invisible. The game will always choose the correct suit for each map. This means that if the map is full of sand, then you will not run around with the suit that is meant for snow maps. So these are the 5 basic classes of my concept. I did change a few things around here and there, but overall these are not that different. Now here comes the twist. In addition to these 5 basic classes, I have added 3 special classes. You can customize the loadout of these 3 like you can for the 5 basic classes, but the difference is that you cannot spawn with these special classes. So how will that work? The first of my special classes is the Commander, and this means that in the game that I have made this concept for, he is a physical player on the battlefield again, like he was in Battlefield 2 and 2142. I really prefer this design because if your team does not have a commander, then you can quickly take his job. And once another player wants to be the commander, you can simply resign and be a normal soldier again, without leaving the server as you have to in Battlefield 4. It will also make the commander more fun and interesting to play because you can actually die and actively defend your base against people who try to enter it and destroy one of your commander assets. But how to make the commander more fun to play and more useful is a pretty large subject, for which I have a topic in the CTE forums where I posted a design concept that also talks about the issues the commander had in the old games, like hiding behind a bush, as well as the issues the commander has in Battlefield 4. The link to that topic is in the description. So what I want to focus on here is the reason for this special commander class. In Battlefield 2 as well as 2142 we had the issue of fighting commanders. This means that a player only signed up for the commander position to get access to his tools like the UAV and the artillery in order to become more powerful. So since these guys were fighting like a normal soldier with superpowers, they had no time to actually do what the commander is meant to do. To fix this, I propose that you spawn normally with the class that you select in the deploy screen. Then you apply for the commander, and once you get the position, your class will automatically change to the commander class. You then only have a submachine gun or shotgun as primary weapon, but this will be enough because you only defend your main base and that means close range engagements. And this should hopefully also reduce the incentive to become a fighting commander. The rest of his loadout highly depends on the design of the commander. You could give him some sort of repair tool so he can repair the commander assets as well as base defenses. Maybe you even let him build anti-tank turrets and other things in limited numbers to defend his main base. So if you are the commander, then your class and loadout is optimized for that job. If you resign from the commander position, then your previous class will become active again, and you don't have to suicide and redeploy. The next special class is the squad leader. So just like with the commander, you cannot spawn with the squad leader class. If you become the leader of a squad, then this class will activate automatically, and if you resign from the position, then your previous kit will be enabled again. Now, as I said before, there are a few open questions in this concept, like should you be able to reject to become a squad leader if your current squad leader leaves? Should there be a mutiny option to get rid of a bad squad leader? And should there be squads that don't have a squad leader? But that goes a bit too far into the squad design of the game. The better question is, why even have this squad leader class? In Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, the squad leader is pretty useless, and most players don't even know it when they are the squad leader. By introducing that squad leader class, which has a unique look as well as loadout, the player will always know when he is the squad leader. And I also made sure that he will play differently than the other classes. He can use a carbine, pistol and a knife. The grenades he has access to are the same that all the other classes have. But when we look at the gadgets, then it will start to become a little bit more interesting. Here the squad leader can choose to either take the spawn beacon or the motion sensor with him. The reason why I gave this to him is quite simple. If you give the spawn beacon to the sniper, then this means that you have it far away from the objective, somewhere on the roof. And its purpose is limited to allow the sniper to respawn on this location once he gets killed. It's like a camping beacon. So I think that the spawn beacon is much better placed in the hands of the squad leader, because this means that it is always close to the action. So if the squad leader decides to attack a specific control point, then he can first set up a spawn beacon. So if he gets killed, then he and his squad still has a chance to respawn close to that control point, as I would like to see this game use squad leader only spawn, as well as only the squad members of his squad should be able to spawn on his spawn beacon, and not on a spawn beacon of another squad. So this design should help to keep the squad together. But the squad leader can also choose to be more aggressive and take the motion sensor instead of the spawn beacon. This will reveal enemy players, but his squad is at risk to lose the ability to spawn close to that flag if the squad leader gets killed. For the second gadget, you can choose to either take binoculars with you that allow you to spot enemy players over longer distances, or watch over your squad members while they attack a control point. Or you could choose to take a special set of flares, which allow you to call in close air support. This is another game mechanic that I've been toying around with for quite some time. It means that the squad leader throws a flare, and for a limited amount of time this area will show up in the HUD and maps of pilots with the request for close air support. If a pilot manages to kill enemy players in that area during the time this request is active, then this pilot will get extra points for this teamwork action. This would help to get the pilots more involved into what is going on at the ground. And this brings me to the last of my special classes, the pilot. Helicopters and jets should be powerful and rare. This means that if you decide to pilot such a vehicle, then you should be committed to use it properly. Sadly, this is not the case, and VC players spawn in helicopters and jets just to use them as taxi to reach their favorite camping spot. I want to get rid of that. And that means that once you sit in the pilot seat of a helicopter or jet for a specific amount of time, then your class will automatically change from the one that you spawned with to the pilot kit. So you can use the jet and helicopter as taxi, but you won't reach your destination with the class you spawned with. The pilot class is only equipped with a submachine gun, pistol, knife and the same grenades as all the other classes. So that pilot kit should help to greatly decrease the abuse of these important vehicles as taxi. However, if you do get shot down, then you just have to reach the supply drop from your commander where you can change your class again, so you don't have to suicide and redeploy. I would also include the pilot of the transport helicopter in this. I know that a few will think that this is stupid, but then again, don't try to apply this concept to what you know from Battlefield 4. The transport helicopter is a very important vehicle, and a good pilot can be key to win the match. In Battlefield 2, I sometimes spent the entire round in the Black Hawk helicopter, transporting my teammates across the map, or heli-lifting boats and jeeps in Battlefield Vietnam. If you would integrate the transportation game mechanic as I showed in the mission log design concept, then this can further increase the integration of air units into what is going on at the ground. So with the right changes to other game mechanics of the game, the transport helicopter can be a vehicle that a lot of players want to pilot the entire round, just like the scout or the attack helicopter. So here we have all the classes that are part of my concept. What I think is essential is that they all look differently so that you know instantly what kind of class you have in front of you. My ability to create different looking soldier models is limited, but what I think you should see here is that they all have different faces. What I don't want to see is the ability to select camo for the soldier's uniform, because this just turns the game into a clown show, and more often than not you completely lose the ability to tell if that guy in front of you is from your team or not. Or you have the players choose the completely wrong camo for a map, which makes them stand out to the enemy. What I would like to see is that each faction has camos that match the terrain of the maps that are included in the game. So you have one for urban maps, woodland, sand, snow, etc. And which one of these is used is defined by the map designer. So if you play on a map that is full of snow, then all players should use the snow camo. And that camo looks a bit different for every team so that you can visually distinguish between friend and foe. Besides the design of the soldier models that should be different, I would also like them to have different voices. This will further help to identify what kind of classes you have around you.
Hostile tank moving in!
There's a machine gun! Watch out!
Watch my back, I gotta reload!
I need some ammo here!
Hostile helicopter moving in!
You are the worst squad I've ever had the misfortune to see.
You gotta break cover, move! Watch my six, I'm moving!
And if you haven't noticed it before, the medic is a woman. This is also something that I would like to see. The ability to select if my soldier is a man or a woman, at least for some of the classes where it makes sense, as this adds diversity to the game. So let me know in the comments what you think about the class system that I showed you here in this video. And if you want to discuss the redesign of the commander, then don't forget to visit the link to the topic in the CTE forum, which I added to the description. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a like, subscribe for more, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a nice day and take care. My name is Chris, and this was Battle Nonsense.